With what's been going on in the world for the past coming up about 3 years now, gaming has become a much bigger daily event in most of our lives. Gaming can be one of the most anticipated things, be it the teasers and oh my, many teasers. Sadly, some games don't live up to the standards and the promises that they promise us. Here's to name a few. And with this list, of course, there's going to be spoilers ahead. Yeah, we're going to be starting with the Ugly Duckling of last year, about a year and a half ago. Cyberpunk 2077, a game that promised a full amount of missions, events, actions, and tons of hacking. Created by a little-known company by the name of CD Projekt Red, who coincidentally was also the same company that gave us, about 5 years ago, The Witcher 3. How did they mess up Cyberpunk, you might be asking? Well, you don't need to let me know that. Here's a little hint. Bugs. A lot of bugs. Throw in a little bit of hacking that they did promise. Mind you, it wasn't very exciting. And well, it was very fun. That was when it barely even worked. At least they didn't lie about Night City. Or didn't delay it for the 4th time since it being released. Now, I could make this list very simple and put Sonic 06 in it, but let's face it, this is own hot garbage with its own little problems. But now I'm gonna go a different route. We're gonna talk about a little known game called Sonic Forces, a game that promised the likes of OCs being able to fight alongside Sonic and company. Fight antagonists in the past, and a new villain wielding the power of something called the Phantom Ruby. Which does indeed sound great in theory, but in practice the game was not the best. The character creation did have popular choices from the internet, but was dull, and the game wasn't too hard, with practically no punishment for dying. They went away with their lives to give us a blend of lies, and made the worst game in the series. Remember whenever, you know how I said that you could fight old enemies? Specifically the likes of Chaos, Metal Sonic, Zarbok, etc. Well, you only get to fight 2 of them. Yeah. You don't get to fight Chaos. He's killed in a cutscene and never seen again. Let alone, the bosses are all the same. But throw in a minor change like, I don't know, Infinite might be able to do a cube, while Metal Sonic does lightning, and Zarbok could just spam a button. And yeah, the whole game was full of lies. Though that wasn't the big problem. The big problem was the story couldn't even decide what it wanted. The Ruby's power is said to be infinite to having some limits to infinite summoning the freaking sun on you. And it's never even confirmed the true origins of Infinite. In the main story, he is said to have been, or hinted towards being created by Robotnik. But in the DLC Shadows story, that gives us a little bit more insight, it is shown that he was indeed not part of Robotnik's crew at all. He actually stole the emerald. And let's just put it here, it's a big letdown from what Sega promised us. And honestly, too, it was more glitchy than anything, too. Let alone, had tons of plot holes that still no one can even figure out to this day. Yeah, we're talking about that one. This game, Microsoft and Rare blessed us back in 2008. The teaser, it promised us the biggest lie in all of gaming history. Think about it. When you hear Banjo, 2 things most likely come to your mind. 1, a hillbilly sitting on a porch in the south with a banjo in his hand, playing a little diddly. And the second one is Banjo the Bear running around in an open area collecting honeycombs, the savior of the world, the land that he's on, or his sister from the evil witch Gruntilda. Well, this teaser takes that and just runs with it, claiming that he's coming back from the hiatus with a new game for the newer generation of consoles. And we got this. It is a racing game, and not a fun one. You like it so far? Banjo Nuts and Bolts is a game that takes your favorite heroes onto a quest to stop Gruntilda from, I don't know, beating you in challenges and races. They didn't really think the plot through, is the point. And having a big meta joke character known as the Game Lord, which is supposed to be this guy that controls all the video games, just so that the story can start and give a reason why Banjo's even going around collecting pieces to create cars racing. Yeah, it's not a big surprise that it had a bad score, and if you've been anywhere on the internet since then, I'm pretty sure you've seen what we have done to the likes of this game already. Yes, this one. The Yule Classic. It is a game that, well, pretty much until whichever one it was in this series, I don't even remember the order anymore at this point. Until the next game of the series was made, this one pretty much killed almost anything in the Assassin's Creed universe. When you go creating games that's mostly single player, hinted in with a little bit of online, albeit challenges, leaderboards, then Black Flag, occasionally you can come across another player, go online and mess around with them or whatnot. But when you take that and you do a 4-player co-op on a server that could barely load half the time, and when it did, you get this. Yeah. Welcome to what would be known as Assassin's Creed Unity. A game that was so full of graphical errors that you could not go 10 feet without seeing a man flying through the air. It would turn your lights of your teammates into floating mouths or eyeballs, your enemies be running at you as organs. And that's only if you didn't crash by doing anything in the game as climbing or doing a mission. There's not much more to say about it. You can go anywhere, just like the other game, or just like number 8. This game has been ripped a new one since it got released back in 2014, and it's still getting hate. And the worst part is that it promised to be this big open world online game to the likes that Assassin's Creed has never seen before. Of course, that was a lie, as shown by the horrible scores that Metacritic and whatnot gave it. Let it be known, do not let Ubisoft make an online game with Assassin's Creed and not be willing to dish out the money to keep said server alive. Alright, if you told me, or anyone for that matter that was at least the age of 5 at some point in their life, or even knew just a little bit about Star Wars, that some point in the future we'd have a game of Star Wars where you could become a Jedi, and not like Jedi Academy or any of that where it's just, you played as a third-person button or character pushing buttons or whatnot. You were a Jedi. You were the Jedi. Everything you did would be put into said game. Well, this is what LucasArts and Microsoft promised us back in 2012 on the Xbox 360. Can you believe it? A game that gives you the ability to use the Force to sling a stormtrooper across the air, have lightsaber battles with the likes of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and even Yoda, pod race with the best racers out there. You could even dance up a storm of Han Solo of all people. Yeah, if you know anything about the Kinect, you know how this game went. The controls were clunky and barely responsive, and the main game, it barely took any skill. You just wave your hand and you would be deflecting everything. The controls were weird. To move forward, you had to move your hands behind your back. You could do co-op, which was cool, but co-op didn't really have a point when all you did was you waved your hands with a lightsaber, or pushed your hand out to do a little force push to send something flying. And at that point, you really couldn't lose unless you were trying. The pod racers were near to impossible to control, as every racing game with the Kinect was. And really, the only good thing was the Galactic Dance-Off, which is where you got to play as Han Solo in a Just Dance style of Star Wars with a song, a fan one at that, that was cleverly named Han Solo.
I'm Solo, I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo.
If you ask me, they should have just made a game on that. That would have sold so much units they would be running in money. What if I told you this series started back in 1991? The same year that Sonic would be running around at the speed of sound. And the last game in this series was in 1996. Just for 3D Realms, a year or two later, to say, hey, we're making another one. Now what if I told you that that game stayed in development until 2011? That's nearly 14 years. Why did they delay it so much? They kept changing the dates, and they did not want to release it until it was on the newest hardware. And Unreal kept updating, so they kept wanting to do it more and more on different ones. Well, this magnificent product will later be known as the Magnificent Duke Nukem Forever. A game that was somewhat still rushed, even granted the 14 years it was in development, and bland. For, I remind you, 14 years! The game has become mostly a joke for multiple reasons, from the gameplay of it being so stale to most of the dialogue and jokes are all stuck in the 90s or potty humor. And, well, really, the big thing is how long it stayed in development. If you ask me, they should have just stopped after the first 3 changes and just went and made another game. At least then they would have left poor Duke on a good note instead of just on this horrible excuse of a game. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. John Romero, creator of Doom and most legendary game developer out there. He left to create this game as his own after leaving the project that helped him make the former game. Made in the same engine as Quake, and mixed both qualities of Doom and Quake, from time travel and gunfire. You'd expect it to be a gold mine. I mean, seeing how John Romero himself made it. Well, it ended up like Duke did. Had tons of remakes and remasters that he kept making just to keep up with Quake, which was already in a new engine that vastly blew Daikatana out of the water. And most of the games at the time did as well. And when it got released, it just disappointed players. The teaser photo is, well, it's kind of famous at this point, with it more or less insulting the player, even though he didn't mean for it to. As such, it was not received very well, and that the teaser might have also been the reason why it had such bad ratings and so very little people even bought it. Imagine being rude to your proud and loyal players and customers that's been with you since more or less the beginning, and expecting good things to come out of that. Clearly, no one told them how game development works. Okay, now hang on before you go downloading this video into oblivion. Let me explain. This game by itself is not bad. In fact, it's still, even to this day, considered to be well ahead of its time. The problem was more or less the idea. You follow me? The game requires you to watch TV shows with Pikachu and adventure with said Pokemon. The game gave you a microphone to talk with them and give them commands. The letdown to the game mainly just comes to the lack of fun in it. I mean, who looks at Pokemon and said, you know what, this RPG about saving the world of Pokemon by shoving these little bitty creatures into these balls to fight for me? Let's have them sit at a TV watching TV shows that add up to a game time of the best part of almost 10 hours. Yeah, it sounds fun, right? It's 10 hours of watching TV with a Pikachu. And you couldn't even tell Oak, who made these shows, that you watched all of them. Because he was specifically designed to know if you did or not. And some of the shows would point blank make sure you were paying attention. There was more to this game, but again, nothing very notable. You went outside with Pikachu, found a Pokemon. Did said thing for that Pokemon, be it bring it something, or have Pikachu talk with it, or walk around and whatnot. You might encounter a few things that Pikachu might do, like eat a berry that he shouldn't, and have a little bit of fun, but the fun only lasts for so long. The main problem was the mic, which it never worked right. And as such, even when it did, Pikachu really did not care what you said. He'd just walk away. And I swear, if he touches that dial one more time for us to watch Pichu Brothers, I am shoving him in this Pokeball, and he is not seeing the light of day. Okay, this pains me to put this as number 2, but I feel it's warranted to be up there. I love this game. I played it a lot when I had it. In fact, I almost completed all the challenges, at least the ones that didn't require being online. The game itself was pretty well received, but the promises it made, it never really kept. The trailer promised this RTX level of shading and lighting and reflections. The likes of that when you look at Cyberpunk's one, kind of looked like that. But this was no trailer, it was shown at E3. It also promised that the entire world was at your hands to hack. Be it a car, a bus, a plane, whatever you wanted, you could hack it. And as you could expect from a game at that time, it got everyone really hyped up. And then the game got released, and it did not look anything like we were told. Some of the world could be hacked. Mind you, there were still tons. Like, I don't know the true number. I remember at least 30. So more or less around 30-ish things could be hacked. Throw in a little bit of your skill tree, you could hack up to almost half of that before your phone ran out of battery. It's just you could not hack everything. The worst part was pretty much it was acted like at E3 that was on a new gen console showing all this stuff, when in fact it was released later on that it was actually on a PC. And I cannot confirm it or deny, because I don't own that version, but supposedly these shaders did come to PC later on, but never saw the light of day on console. There might be mods for it. Still though, I recommend you give this game a try. I think you'll love it. I know it's a little strange to pick more than one game from a series, but I had to choose this. When it claimed in its teaser that everyone in the game, all the NPCs you could recruit, and they could be a hacker with you to be part of DedSec, which the game takes place in England, shortly sometime after the second game happens, where DedSec had already been destroyed but was being brought back up. Everyone was said to have their own skills and abilities and items, and you could hack more in it. Technically they didn't lie, but it was nowhere near as what it was promised. You see, the fun, it wasn't exactly fun in single player. Multiplayer was also only up for a set amount of time before the server got shut down, and I don't know if it's back up to this day. One of the main problems it got shut down, though, was because it could not handle the amount of players. They did not account for the millions of people that would want to play their new game on launch. Speaking of the players, as expected, there were also tons of hackers and trolls in the game, and they didn't know how to take care of it, so they shut down the server. And as you could expect, not a lot of people stayed with it because it was boring. They might have fun for it a little bit, but after a few missions, it's more or less the same thing. Go to this place, kill these guys, recruit this person, go back, rinse, repeat. Might throw in a little challenge occasionally in there. I don't know if they changed it, because I've seen it when it first came out. They could have patched everything. But when the game was first released and it was pre-order, and at around that time it was around at least $60, it's no wonder a lot of people wanted a refund. And might even be one of the reasons why the servers may not even be full to this day. It's a real shame, honestly. The game was such an idea and an engine that could actually run all of that, falling to the limitations of the dev's wallet and willing to throw cash to keep their servers for their online game to be able to maintain the amount of players that would actually love to play their game. Hey guys, this is Editing William. I hope you liked the video. It's a little bit different from normal stuff on our server here, or on our channel. You could probably guess that I had a script with most of this. I do not have a script at the moment, and you all know how that goes. You know, do all the YouTube stuff, but I kind of, this is one of those things that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've never got around to it, mainly because when I first had the idea, I was still doing school. But after school, I have work. I finally got around to doing it, and this is the end result. I hoped that you guys will receive these well. If you did, you can like and share it if you want. You guys already know I don't really push that stuff too much. Kind of kills what the channel's about. Having fun and goofing around. I think I've spent enough time taking up your life. You can watch my other videos if you want. I don't really mind. Remember to keep the comments respectful. Be nice to each other. Try to spread some cheer throughout the day.